Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Uh, it's been almost a week now since I did my last podcast, and the reason I've been out of circulation is because I became extremely ill. I believe I was suffering with RSV. It was very tough. A lot of coughing, wheezing, sneezing. It was ugly. But I believe now I am finally restarting to recover, and it's time to get to it. But anyway, I have been trying to keep up with everything that's been going on in the news over the past week, and I'm looking at it again, and I still see it's the debunkers coming out. It's just a constant barrage of lies and misinformation, and I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of this cover up. That's my thoughts on it. I saw today that Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of AARO, the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office, comes out with an opinion piece in Scientific American, and it's entitled "Here's What I Learned as the United States Government's UFO Hunter." And basically, what this is, he starts pointing the fingers at people in the UFO community, like people like Robert Bigelow and people like that, like the late Harry Reid. They're the reasons. Those people are the ones who started all of this conspiracy talk and all of its nonsense. And he didn't find any evidence of anything. And I just think he's a lazy puppet for the. That's what I get out of this. This guy's a lazy, dumb puppet for the Pentagon. That's all he is. I mean, they're the one who picked this guy to head AARO, right? I mean, Congress can't do that. What we should have got is somebody who's completely disconnected from all of that stuff. That's what we need running AARO, which, by the way, still doesn't have a new director. There's still an interim in there. But anyway, let's go through this piece of garbage article from Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who did a terrible job as the director of AARO, and now he wants to point the finger at the UFO community and say basically everyone's a crackpot. Basically, that's what I got out of this anyway. But we're not going to read the whole thing, but we'll go through some of it. Of course, he starts off here with a quote from Carl Sagan. Of course, I don't even know why are we talking about Carl Sagan here. That guy was a UFO debunker. I don't think he has no real. He did no real research into this. He had no idea what he was talking about. He had he talked on TV. He was a very popular astronomer. That I'll give him that, but that's about it. He's the same thing as Neil deGrasse Tyson. Never studied this, and who care? I don't care what Carl Sagan said. I don't care. Carl Sagan, he was somebody who turned a blind eye to this whole phenomenon, pretend that there was nothing to it. When there most certainly is still something to it. Anyway, it says here Carl Sagan popularized the maxim that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Okay, yeah, but there is some extraordinary evidence out there. Has any of these people ever looked at some of the physical trace evidence that was collected by people from MUFON? People like the late Ted Phillips, who cataloged a whole bunch of different landing cases and had a lot of trace evidence that showed that these vehicles, when they land, they do something to the earth and to the vegetation. And so, have they ever looked at that? Isn't that extraordinary evidence? No. And when there's multiple witnesses that saw the craft and then they show the evidence to researchers, that doesn't count. What about the Turkey UFO videos? Multiple videos were filmed by this Turkish fisherman over the Marmara Sea from 2007, 2008, 2009 on many incidents with witnesses there to see this with their own eyeballs. And he filmed it, and he captured a craft hovering out over this sea. And you could see actual alien beings in there, and they actually look like they fit the descriptions of what people who were getting abducted for years claimed, right? They look like gray aliens, they look like insectoid aliens, right? Doesn't that constitute extraordinary evidence? No, they don't even look at that stuff. That's not considered anything. Have they ever looked into the evidence that was people put together? Different researchers have compiled with regard to the Roswell incident. All the different people who stepped forward over the years to talk about what really happened there. It was no balloon like the government has led people to believe. Still, people today, even the people in the mainstream news, believed that Roswell was nothing more than a balloon, just like the Air Force said. which is nonsense. When you have hundreds of witnesses, people making deathbed confessions that were there, that said they saw the bodies or they saw the craft or they saw both. Doesn't that count? Doesn't that constitute extraordinary evidence? I mean, deathbed confessions, they're used in a court of law a lot of times. When people make confessions when they're dying, that usually holds water in a court of law. Doesn't that hold water here in this instance? Isn't that extraordinary evidence when you have multiple people making similar comments about what happened at Roswell? Doesn't that mean anything? You know, for instance, there was this one woman, Sappho Henderson. Her husband was at Roswell, was stationed there. His name was Pappy Henderson, and in 1982, he saw on a newsstand a magazine, something like Weekly World News, one of those tabloids, Inquirer type magazines, and on that cover was something about Roswell. And he said to her that at that moment, he bought that paper, and he's like, I've been dying to tell you about this for years. I guess I could tell you now, but yeah, I was part of this. I helped with that. I helped move those bodies. I mean, why would he tell his wife that all those years later and stand by until he died? And then there was all the deathbed confessions. I mean, if you look in books like this, like Witness to Roswell by Thomas Carey and Donald Schmidt, they had a one chapter here dedicated to deathbed confessions. And they talked about this Major Edwin Easley, and he was interviewed by Roswell investigator Kevin Randall. But all Easley would say was that he couldn't discuss the Roswell incident, that he was still sworn to secrecy. Over and over, Easley would repeat that same phrase to each question that Randall asked. Sometime thereafter, he in fact confirmed to his 2 daughters and granddaughter his participation when he lay dying in Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas in June of 1992. His granddaughter brought him a gift while her mother and aunt kept vigil at their father's bedside. She held it up to her grandfather's eyes in the hopes that he would appreciate her thoughtfulness. With a look of total astonishment, he turned from the outreached arms of the young girl and sighed the words, "Oh, the creatures." What was the gift, you ask? That brought him such an intense reaction from an intrepid man who maintained his silence for 45 years? It was simply a copy of the first Randall and Schmidt book, UFO Crash at Roswell. Okay, so why would he say that on his deathbed? Why would he basically admit to seeing the bodies? If that's not enough, there were other people. Here was Homer Rowlett Jr. was a member of the 603rd Air Engineering Squadron at the Roswell Air Base in 1947. He was career military and retired as an NCO after 26 years of dedicated service to his country. Before passing away in March of 1988, he finally conveyed to his son Larry the following startling information about his involvement with the crash of the flying saucer. That was in quotes. The crash of the flying saucer was in quotes. His father was part of a cleanup detail sent to the impact site north of Roswell. Larry was told that his father had seen everything. He had handled the memory metal, which, according to Homer, was thin foil that kept its shape. If that wasn't enough, he described the actual ship, which was somewhat circular. But what followed caught his son completely by surprise. "I saw 3 little people. They had large heads, and at least one was alive." His father ended by adding that there were 3 sites, the one just north of Roswell and 2 others near Corona. There's all these kind of people. There was Melvin Brown. This was a guy who was a sergeant in Roswell at the time. He was with the K Squadron back at the time of the incident. Brown would take the historic first manned landing on the moon in July of 1969 as an impetus to tell his family the truth about Roswell. Unfortunately for Brown, they were reluctant to believe him. Still, his wife and 2 daughters remembered his stern warning not to tell anyone else because Daddy will get into trouble. So, in 1969, Melvin Brown, who was a sergeant there, who was stationed at Roswell, told his family during the moon landing that this happened about this Roswell incident. They didn't believe him, but he said at the same time at that moment, but whatever the case, don't say anything or I'll get into trouble. But then in 1986, on his deathbed, He was just outside London, England. His daughter, Beverly Bean, said that her father talked about Roswell exclusively. He reiterated over and over that it was not a damn weather balloon. And this is what he said to her. He said, "It was approaching dusk when one other soldier and I were stationed in one of the ambulance trucks at the recovery site. Everything was being loaded onto trucks, and I couldn't understand why some of the trucks had ice or something in them. I did not understand why they wanted to keep cold. What they wanted to keep cold. Our orders were not to look under the canvas tarp in the back. The moment we had a chance, I pulled back the covering. There were bodies, small bodies, and they had big heads and slanted eyes." Why would this guy tell his family this on his deathbed? Why would that happen? Why would Jesse Marcel Sr., the top intelligence officer, finally go public in 1978? He said that he was told not to say anything about what happened and just to go along with this weather balloon story. And so he had to keep his mouth shut. But then in the late 1970s, Stan Friedman approached him, and then he told the story for the first time publicly, and the rest is history. That started the snowball effect. And then people over the years talked about Roswell. Of course, Marcel, who was the top intelligence official, made statements. In fact, here he is. Here's what he said.
You couldn't even bend it. You couldn't dead it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and our air travel. This is nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
So there you go. It was not of this earth, right? Another witness. Or how about the late Walter Haut, who was the information officer at Roswell at the time? He actually signed an affidavit a few years before he died, and that was only to be released after he died. And in that affidavit, it stated that he saw parts of the craft and he saw some of the alien bodies. So why would he lie? Why would these people be lying about this? And meanwhile, the Air Force, what has the Air Force provided about Roswell over the decades? Nothing. In fact, all of their records were mysteriously destroyed from late 1946 all the way into 1949. They're all the records from the only atomic bomb site in the entire world at the time are just gone. Those records are just gone. How's that possible? I mean, we're supposed to sit back and believe that? That's not extraordinary. All of those witnesses' deathbed confessions, that's not extraordinary evidence. Why would people say this on their deathbed? All these people that were in Roswell at the time. There's a lot more. I mean, these books, if you read these books, people in the mainstream news particularly need to check out these books and do their own research, and they would understand that most certainly something happened at Roswell. And that's just the beginning. That was just the beginning of this cover-up right there. But anyway, people like Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, he doesn't care about this. They don't care about the information that's already out there, that's on the public domain at this point, or written about in these highly researched books. They don't care about that. To them, that doesn't constitute evidence. What about the implants that were taken out of people, alien implants removed from people by people like the late Dr. Roger Leary? Are they not concerned about that? Is that not something to look into? Well, I could imagine from someone in that position, in AARO's position, okay, maybe that's not their purview, right? But based on the information that we have about the cover-up, there is a conspiracy, but he tries to make it look like people who believe in this conspiracy are basically crackpots. No, actually, he's the crackpot. He's a disingenuous clown, just like some of the clowns that we have in the debunker field. That's all he is. He's just like one of them. You can't believe the government when it comes to UFOs, folks. You just can't, because they're lying. I know this for a fact. For one thing, right, I saw one of these beings, right? I saw one of them. One of them entered my room when I was a little kid, right? So I know, right? I seen one of them. For 10 years, at least, I thought it was the devil or a demon from hell. That's what I believed. I didn't have any other idea what it possibly could have been. I didn't know what was going on. Then I realized, seeing shows about abduction and stuff like that later on, I figured it out. And I saw a craft in 1994 along with another witness. There was no way that this thing was made by human beings. There's just no way. We don't have stuff that can do what like the thing that I saw. There's nothing. We don't have that kind of technology. So there's something here. I know it. And I know that the government has to know this, right? And I know that they're lying. They have to be, right? Based on all my own personal evidence that I've seen with my own eyeballs, right? That I experienced firsthand. In addition to that, let's pretend that they don't know anything about it. And that means we're being invaded by something, and it's been going on a long time, right? And they still have no idea what it is, and they don't even know that it exists, even though some people out there like me know for a fact that it exists. They're lying. They're lying. They've been lying about it. All these people that talked about Roswell, all of them weren't lying, right? They were telling the truth. Some of them were making deathbed confessions. They waited till they were dying to say anything. They were afraid to say it while they were living. So they waited till they're dead, or till after they're dead. That's how afraid they were, because they were threatened. There were people that were threatened, given death threats. The Sheriff Wilcox in Roswell at the time in 1947, him and his wife Inez were told that if you say anything, we're going to kill you. And his wife was in her 90s, and she finally told people in her family about this right before she died. Why would she say that? Why would she say that? What does the government have to prove that it was a balloon? Nothing. They just made it up. Just like they made up the crash test dummies that they dropped from high altitudes in the 50s, years later, at least 6 years later, in other parts of the country. And that's what they try to tell you. People mistook alien bodies for, that it was actually these crash test dummies. That's what they try to say. Because they think you're idiots. They think we're all supposed to just sit back and, they said it was balloons and crash test dummies, so I guess that's what it is, right? Duh. I guess I gotta believe the Air Force now. Duh. That's what the Air Force and the United States government wants you to believe. But they're lying. They're lying. This guy's lying. He knows he's lying. He's trying to pass on the buck here. He wants to try to protect his legacy, but he's not going to. He's going to go down in history as a complete, absolute stooge, because that's what he is, whether he knows it or not. Either that or he's lying for them. I don't think he's lying for them. I think he's a stooge. I think he's a puppet. Anyway, let's continue with this piece of garbage. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'll leave the link so you can check it out for yourself. I'll just want to hit some of the highlights here. It says, when he talks about the extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and he goes, this advice should not be optional for policymakers. In today's world of misinformation, conspiracy-driven decision-making, and sensationalist-dominated governance, our capacity for rational, evidence-based critical thinking is eroding, with deleterious consequences for our ability to effectively deal with multiplying challenges of our ever-increasing complexity. Okay. Boy, it must have taken him a while to put that word salad together. What that's designed to do is make it look like how much more superior he is to anybody in the UFO community, right? And that anybody else who's talking about this stuff, about conspiracies and stuff, they're not critical thinkers. Actually, this guy's not a critical thinker. If he thinks, right, this way, the way he's thinking, he didn't do his research. Why was this guy in charge of AARO if he doesn't know anything about the history of this? Why was he in charge of AARO? He couldn't stand the heat, so he had to get out of the kitchen. That's what's going on here. The guy couldn't take it. He couldn't take it. Anyway, he says, continues here. He says, as director of the Department of Defense's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, charged by Congress in 2022 to help bring science-based clarity and resolution to the long-standing mystery surrounding credible observations of UAP, I experienced this erosion up close and personal. And it was one factor in my decision to step down from my position last December. After painstakingly assembling a team of highly talented and motivated personnel and working with them to develop a rational, systematic, and science-based strategy to investigate these phenomena, our efforts were ultimately overwhelmed by sensational but unsupported claims that ignored contradictory evidence yet captured the attention of policymakers and the public, driving legislative battles and dominating the public narrative. Okay, for one thing, this goofball here didn't have access to all the information. The Pentagon, by design, wasn't giving him access to everything, because if he had gotten access to anything, then he wouldn't be making these dumb, absurd statements. He wouldn't be saying this stuff. Continues here, he says, the result of this whirlwind of tall tales, fabrication, and secondhand or third-hand retellings of the same was a social media frenzy and a significant amount of congressional executive time and energy spent on investigating these so-called claims, as if we didn't have anything better to do. So there's nothing, extraterrestrials from outer space, that's not worth looking into, is it? As if we don't have anything to better do. It's the biggest discovery of all time, and the biggest cover-up of all time, right? But we shouldn't look into that, right? Because it's not important. That's not like we don't have other important stuff to do. Yeah, you know what I mean? We got more important stuff to do than worry about aliens from outer space. That's how he's making it sound. Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Why was this guy the director anyway? Again, he was handpicked by the Department of Defense To be a stupid puppet, to be a stooge. That's what he is. You're a stooge, Sean. And your little op-ed here stinks to high heaven. Goes on like this. He continues. It says the conspiracist's story goes something like this. The United States has been hiding and attempting to reverse engineer as many as 12 UFOs from as early as the 1960s and perhaps earlier. What's wrong with that? Based on everything that's been compiled over the decades by many researchers. What's wrong with that statement? Actually, that's pretty conservative if you ask me. I mean, if you look at UFO crash retrievals by Leonard Stringfield, who actually did research and talked to a lot of insiders, you would realize that actually it could be in the hundreds, could be over 100. But I think that's a very conservative figure, 12. That's conservative. Might be more than that. We don't really know. But they have it. There's no doubt because there's all these witnesses that talked about it. Again, go back to Roswell. That was before the government had all its ducks in order. That's before they had their special teams assembled to handle these kind of crash retrievals and cover-ups. They had regular military personnel out there, and then they had to try to figure out a way to make sure you don't say anything about this. Threats, money. Apparently, some people received $10,000 that were in the military to keep their mouths shut about what they were part of. And then you had to threaten the civilians. That's all they had. What else could they do at the time? But anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of it. Yes, there's dozens and dozens, hundreds of people that talked about this over decades. So he's not Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of AARO, which is supposed to be investigating this all the way back into the 40s, doesn't know this? Did he do his research on this? Who was he reading? Looks like he's reading Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's taking his cues from those guys instead of people that actually did the research. Anyway, continuing here, it says, this great cover-up and conspiracy failed to produce any salient results, and consequently the effort was abandoned to some private sector defense contractors to continue the work. Something like that, yeah. It is something like that, though. It is something like that. That's what seems to be going on here. I mean, it is a good way to make sure that any of these documents don't become the property of the government, because if you keep them the property of these private contractors, then that's their business. They don't have to share that with anybody, right? Yeah, that is how they would do it, isn't it? And actually, there's some evidence to show that they did this. In fact, I believe Jacques Vallée talked about that in one of his recent books, in the Forbidden Science Volume 5 or something to that. One of those, I think it was, yeah. That maybe this is something that was established during the Nixon administration to make sure, okay, these Freedom of Information Act people are going to come looking for documents. Well, how about we just ship them over to the private developers, let it be all theirs under their purview, and then they can't get that freedom. No Freedom of Information Act request will ever work, right? We'll just give them all the good stuff, right? Yeah, why not? Well, we don't really know. I mean, I don't think I could say this. We don't exactly know. People in the UFO community, we know that it's a cover-up. We don't know all the details of it. We suspect certain things, right? But there is a conspiracy. There has to be, right? There has to be. All these people aren't lying, right? All these people that stepped forward over the years. The government's never really proved its case that there's nothing to it. They tried to say they tried to say a whole bunch of really smart people in the United States Army Air Force back in 1947 mistook a weather balloon for a flying saucer. They tried to say that. They tried to say that a whole bunch of people who saw dead alien bodies actually mistook what I view as department store mannequins as extraterrestrials. I mean, that's what they're trying to say. Their story stinks. They don't have any witnesses, anybody to step up, that ever, not at all, to corroborate what they're trying to sell. But meanwhile, on the other side of the equation, you have all these people that were there, and a lot of them gave deathbed confessions. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, you're not using critical thinking skills, or unless maybe you're just one of those dumb people though that just says, "Oh, they said it was a balloon, so that's what I'm going to say it was too." Because they're not going to lie. Maybe that's, I don't know. Are you one of those people? Anyway, sometime later, the story continues, those private sector contractors wanted to bring the whole program back under United States government auspices. Apparently, the CIA stopped this supposed transfer back to the United States government. All this is without substantiating evidence, but alas, belief in a statement is directly proportional to the volume in which it is transmitted and the number of times it is repeated, not the actual facts. Well, I could turn that on backward, and I could say it doesn't matter how many times you tell us that there's nothing there's nothing to it, and we don't have any evidence of extraterrestrials or their craft. No matter how many times you say it, doesn't make it true, right? The government has been lying, and lying along with them, right? It doesn't make it true, because there's a lot of people out there who have seen these things, encountered the creatures themselves, and there's a lot of people in the military who on some of them on their deathbed talked about their involvement in crash retrievals and reverse engineering. And now we have like 40 other whistleblowers too. I don't know if you heard about that. Are they all liars? Is David Grush telling lies under oath? Is that what you're trying to intimate? Anyway, it goes on. It says, during a full-scale, year-long investigation of this story, which has been told and retold by a small group of interconnected believers and others with possibly less than honest intentions, none of whom have first-hand accounts of any of this, AARO discovered a few things, and none were about aliens. He goes on to talk about there was no records exist of any president or living Department of Defense or intelligence community leader knowing about this alleged program, nor any congressional committee having such knowledge. Oh, they don't have any records to show you. Oh, that means they must be telling the truth then. There's no records, so they're telling the truth. Okay, I get it. All right, that makes sense. Then he goes on. He talks about, I'm not even going to read a lot of this. He gets into the Bigelow stuff, saying that they're all responsible for getting this discussion heated up over the years. Yeah, I don't believe anything. I can't trust this guy. I just don't trust that. I don't trust him. I don't trust how he handled AARO, and I think he's an absolute clown and a puppet. He ends it with this. This is how he wraps it all up. He says, I can assure you as its former director that AARO is unwaveringly committed to harnessing science and technology to bring unprecedented clarity to these fascinating, important, and stubborn mysteries, and to do so with maximum transparency. Its talented staff and team of supporting scientists are at this very moment striving in collaboration with the armed forces, intelligence community, government agencies, national laboratories, scientific community, academic community, and soon the general public to collect and analyze hard, measurable data, i.e. extraordinary evidence, in this heretofore eyewitness-rich but data-poor field. The AARO team will go wherever the data takes us without fail and will not be swayed by any attempts to influence its findings otherwise. Science cannot be left on the side of the road in the mad dash to uncover some great conspiracy. Carl Sagan would expect no less, and neither should the American people. You know what? I don't care what Carl Sagan expected. He's non-starter here as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what Carl Sagan would have thought or done. He was a debunker, and who cares what he would have said, who cares? And the other thing here is, right, science has been left on the side of the road because of this great conspiracy, and there has been a great conspiracy, and this guy's denying it, and he's trying to make anybody who believes in it look like they're stupid and they have no ability to think. They lack critical thinking skills. This guy has no critical thinking skills. If he thinks that people out there are going to believe the words he says, the only people who are going to believe this are people like debunkers, like that creepy Stephen Greenstreet, the creep, right? Creepy Greenstreet, or dubious, dishonest Mick West. People like that. They're the only people who are going to be cheering this. Dumbbells. I mean, and the dumbbells, the dummies, complete, absolute goofball dumbbells who need to hear this on a regular basis. There's nothing to this, that follow these debunkers. That's the only people who are going to be cheering for this. Because these guys, Kirkpatrick did nothing. He was handpicked by the Department of Defense to be the director. The Department of Defense doesn't want this information out. They're working to reverse engineer this stuff, and they want to keep it a secret. And we're supposed to sit back and believe this guy when you had all these other people over the decades, a lot of them with deathbed confessions, telling us about retrieving crashed flying saucers, dead alien bodies. Sometimes were alive. That's what we got from people giving deathbed confessions. But yet, that's not extraordinary evidence. That constitutes nothing. Doesn't even. We have better things to do. We shouldn't investigate this stuff. Let's just go by what the Air Force tells us. They said it was just a mere weather balloon, and all these people made a mistake. Where's your proof for that? We don't need any proof. We're telling you. We're just telling you. Well, what about the alien bodies that the people saw? Crash test dummies. Crash test dummies. We figured it all out. We thought about it for a long time. This is actually that's what they did. They actually thought about it. Somebody actually said, let's figure out where to, and it was a fever dream. That's all it was. They dreamed it all up. They needed to come up with some excuse. And that's just Roswell. We're not talking about all the other crash retrievals. I mean, there's the Aztec case, which people at first thought it was a hoax, but now it seems like, no, that one was real too, from 1948. And there's a whole bunch of them. Kingman, Arizona from 1953. I mean, there's just a whole crap load of them. There's a whole bunch of crash retrieval stories we've heard and people have talked about. People have gone on the record. People gave deathbed confessions about it, but we're supposed to pretend that doesn't mean anything. And Sean Kirkpatrick wants you to think that too. He wants you to think, hey, we never saw any evidence, nothing ever. No, we looked into it. We can't have science being left on the side of the road in favor of some great conspiracy. Well, guess what? That great conspiracy is keeping science. That's what's keeping science on the side of the road. Is this conspiracy? Because the entire scientific community has been left in the dark for the most part. Right, and that's what's happened. It's the opposite. See, a lot of times when you read what these idiots are trying to tell you, it's projection. This is projection. People who don't study this, people who haven't studied this, people who haven't researched this for themselves, right? They just think, well, Sean Kirkpatrick and the government said there's nothing to this. They have no evidence of extraterrestrials, so that must be true. Those are the people. They're the sheep who have no critical thinking skills. Mick West said this. Somebody who says that, right? That person has no critical thinking skills. Dumb. Can't think for themselves. They really can't. They don't know how to pick up a book and read it. They don't know how to do some research on their own to figure things out. Instead, they'll read some crap put together on a website like Metabunk and go walk away and think it's real. When if that's what's false, that's the phony stories that are being pushed out there for the most part. Of course, every now and then, somebody comes up with a UFO and says, hey, this is a UFO. And then a debunker will say, no, I think it's a balloon. Sometimes that debunker's right. Yeah, sometimes things are just balloons or natural phenomena or whatever, right? But sometimes they're not. But I'm just sick of this cover-up. I'm sick of playing this stupid game. I'm sick of reading stuff like this. I'm sick of it. I mean, aren't you? I don't know what to say about it. You know, there was ABC News is recently this past week. There's an article actually from ABC News. They have a program that's on Hulu called Impact X Nightline, and they talk to some quote experts about this, and they're trying to sort out what's fact and what's fiction when it comes to UFOs. But of course, they have to go to all the time. Their go-to guy for some reason is Neil deGrasse Tyson. That just ruins the whole show for me. He's not an expert on this. He's a celebrity who knows nothing. He's an astrophysicist. He doesn't know anything about UFOs. Why do these people keep going to him? I don't understand it. There's other people out there who are legitimate researchers into this field. Why aren't they going after those people? Why are they bringing on Neil deGrasse Tyson? He has nothing to offer this at all. Nothing constructive at all. In fact, he says really stupid things a lot of the times. I want to go through this article here a little bit, though. There was an article on it as well as you could check out the show. I wouldn't waste your time, though, with it, quite frankly. But, hey, that's your decision. It says here, the stories of flying saucers, little green men, and contact with beings from across the cosmos have fascinated the public for centuries as people have wondered what's beyond our skies. Now, of course, the author of this, there's several different reporters, and all of these people are idiots. I'm going to just say right out of the get-go. When you see little green men in the first sentence of a paragraph on a story about UFOs, you know that these people are morons, absolute, complete morons. But over the last few decades, as science and mass media have expanded, the obsession with UFOs and possible extraterrestrial life has exploded. From the fun, such as sightseeing tours of supposed UFO activity hotspots like Roswell, New Mexico, to the serious, with last year's tense congressional hearings on the subject, a lot of money, resources, and time has been spent has been spent answering the question, are we alone? Okay. And of course, the very first person who they have a comment in here from is Neil deGrasse Tyson. There are people who will see things that are unexplainable, but they can't explain it. So to them, it's unidentified. Fine. Well, let's investigate it, famed astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson told Impact X Nightline. An episode of Impact X Nightline, now streaming on Hulu, takes a look at the cultural phenomenon behind UFOs and features interviews with scientists, UFO enthusiasts, and people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. Margaret Whitecamp, the department chair of the National Air and Space Museum, told Impact that the phenomenon behind UFOs began in the 1940s and 50s with the public obsession over flying saucers. Let me just stop right there. No, it began when people started seeing these things, when they were showing up over Washington, D.C. in 1952, right? Flying over the Capitol and the White House, right? It was a whole bunch of different factors. It wasn't just people were interested in it. People were seeing them. That's when it started, 1947 into the 50s, and it never stopped. Arguably, the most famous incident took place in the summer of 1947 when a rancher found wreckage, including metallic-looking scraps, on his property. This was around the same time that the United States Air Force began Project Blue Book, an initiative to investigate UFO reports. Oh, God. Here's what Whitecamp says. What we know is probably that it was a weather balloon incident, but a lot of lore has risen up around that and around especially secure areas in the American West where people then ask a lot of questions about what's really happening there, Whitecamp said. The reports of the weather balloon did little to quell people's suspicions, experts said. Well, let me just stop there. Again, I was just talking about Roswell. This whole weather balloon stuff is a lie. It's been a lie. The government's told this lie. They told it in multiple different ways, too. First they've reported it was, we're talking about Roswell here. I'm so sick of going through this. I don't see, again, we're talking about critical thinking before. There's no people out there who dismiss Roswell. Even there's some people in the UFO community, right, that will dismiss it. Let's use our critical thinking skills here. People start seeing flying saucers all over the place, starting in June of 1947. In July of 1947, something finally comes down, crashes, right? There's wreckage that's found. A rancher finds some debris. He doesn't understand what it is. It's all over the place. His sheep won't cross it. It's over a large area. He doesn't know what it is. This guy is familiar with weather balloons. He saw them before. He actually picked them up and would dumped them in an empty water tower sometimes. It wasn't like this rancher didn't know what a weather balloon was. It wasn't a weather balloon. So then the Army eventually releases that press release saying they captured a flying disc. Then they changed their tune. They said, no, it's just a weather balloon. That's all it is. It was just a weather balloon. And then years later, they say, no, guess what? It wasn't just any old weather balloon. It was a top secret weather balloon that we were using to spy on the Soviet Union with to see if we could hear when they blast off their first atomic bomb. That's what we were trying to listen for. And we had to keep it a big secret. Well, it still was a weather balloon. There was really no difference between a mogul balloon and a weather balloon. There's no real difference there, except there was a little radio device on there, right? So that's a lie. They've been lying about this over and over and over again over the years. And then they said the bodies that people saw were crash test dummies. No, that's false. Anybody who believes that is stupid. I'm just going to tell you right now. If you believe in that, the Air Force's explanation for Roswell, then you're stupid. Based on all of the evidence that has been compiled over the years, all the different people that talked about this, that were there, that were actually there, not people who weren't there like Mick West or Stephen Greenstreet. They weren't there. Neither was Sean Kirkpatrick. None of those people were there, right? But the people that were there said that's what they saw, that there was bodies, there was a craft, and they were told to keep quiet about it. That's the bottom line. But yet, that's lore. That's lore. What should be considered phony lore here is this weather balloon story. That's the lore. That's the phony story that's been going on. That's the legend. Anyway. Continuing here, it says the reports of the weather balloon did little to reports of unidentified lights in the sky, aircraft, and other explained events, particularly in the Southwest, exploded since the 1950s and turned the area into a pop culture phenomenon. Well, see, this is trying to explain the entire UFO phenomenon in a little tiny article. You can't do it. You can't do it. Just outside of Las Vegas lies what many UFO enthusiasts call the Extraterrestrial Highway, which features UFO-themed attractions and stores. Of course, they're talking about Area 51 here. But some who claim they had gotten up close and personal with a being from outer space told Impact that their lives were forever changed from the fateful encounter. Kate Patterson told Impact that she was abducted by aliens 24 years ago when she and her sister-in-law were driving in a rural area. Patterson said the experience, where she allegedly was put on a metal bed and was giving a pelvic exam by a group of aliens, traumatized her. If you believe me, great. If you don't, that's fine too. You don't have to. I know what happened. But yeah, that part was at least interesting, because you know what? Some people aren't going to believe her. They're not going to believe these people that say they were abducted by aliens or that they interacted with aliens. They're not going to believe it. They just won't. They just won't. Because guess why? Because the government says we don't know anything about that. That's why. And because the government's lying. Government's lying. Actually, there's another story here. Jeremy Corbell is in the news again. And he's saying that the United States government and defense contractors hold multiple undamaged, functional, non-human craft. Well, I thought we already all knew that. I thought we all were on the same page with that. But I guess there's somebody that's telling him directly. Somebody who has direct knowledge is telling him this. So, but he can't say who it is. See, that's what I'm saying. I love the work that Corbell does. Sometimes I do criticize him, as everyone who listens to my podcast knows. But at the same time, this doesn't get us anywhere. I mean, it's great to hear it. I mean, I could say somebody contacted me right now with direct knowledge and told me a whole bunch of stuff, but says I can't use your name. You can't use my name. But I could tell you directly, yes, we have alien craft, and some of it's intact and operational. We have it, but you can't tell anybody what my name is. You just can't do that. I'm sick of that too. I'm sick of all of this. I'm just so tired of it. I'm tired of pretending that we live in this pretend reality. It's like the land of make-believe, where this stuff isn't real when I know it is. Again, if you do the research on this, you would know that there's a conspiracy. There's no question about it. Why wouldn't there be? There has to be, right? They have to know about this, right? All these people aren't lying, right? I know that I'm not lying, right? I know personally that I saw one of these creatures, and I know personally that I saw one of these craft in action, right? I know that. But anyway, here's a direct quote from Corbell. It says, "I can confirm to you with direct knowledge that we have multiple unidentified anomalous phenomena programs currently active. Some were inherited from previous legacy endeavors, each with specialized mandates related to the non-human intelligence aspect of the phenomenon. These are currently under the authority of the Department of Defense, multiple United States Joint Allied Intelligence Agencies, and defense contractors, including Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. Those organizations have multiple undamaged, functional, non-human craft in their possession and have had these for a long time. They have been exploiting them for derivative technologies, prioritizing U.S. weapons advancement." See, that's what it's all about, folks. It's always been about that. I mean, the reason they got to keep it secret, I'm sure that they lie to themselves and say, we got to keep it secret because cause panic. But really, the main reason we got to keep doing this reverse engineering program, because once we figure out how we can duplicate this stuff, then we're going to take control of this whole planet. Let's see anybody mess with us then. We'll kill everybody. See, that's what it's about. We're a bunch of animals, the human race. We are. I know there's some people out there saying, I'm a really good person. I go to church every Sunday. Right? Well, guess what? From a distance, when you look at us as a whole, we're a bunch of monsters. We're a bunch of wild apes running around killing each other. That's what we are. Sorry. Anyway, the Liberation Times tried to contact the DOD, and guess what? They got Susan Go, and she provided them the same line that they provided the last time. "To date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently." Yeah, same old lies. Now, Susan Go doesn't know what's going on. She's just a mouthpiece. She's just told what to do. Go tell them this now. We don't have any stuff. That's what you tell them. Well, and if she ever asks any question, is it true though? Shut up. Don't ever ask that question again or you're fired. That's what's going on behind the scenes. Something like that. But anyway, I'm not going to read the rest of this article. It's just something else to check out. I'm just trying to catch up here after not being active for like a week. It really sucks. Sucks being sick. I could say that for sure. Anyway, I guess what I'm going to go do now quick is I'm going to go and check out the The most recent poll that I conducted on Spotify, I guess I should update everyone on that. Let's see, yes. For the episode, well, I guess I'll do the last two because I'm not sure. Actually, I'll do the last three. It looks like there's a lot more votes since the last time I did this. For the episode, Grush drops UFO bombshells at private meeting hosted by Wall Street bigwig. I asked this question. What is your initial reaction to David Grush's assertion that the alien presence has craft that distorts space and time? There was 130 votes now, with 18 days still left. And let's go through what 7 people say their reaction would be, oh dear. 8, or that's 5.4%. Another 8 people or 6.2% says we're in trouble. 13 people or 10% say we're dumb apes. Yep, I think we are definitely dumb apes, no question. What's the next one? 18 people, or excuse me, another 13 people says, or 10% say I don't believe it. 18 people or 13.8% say my mind is blown. 32 people or 24.6% say it's great, fantastic. And 39 people or 30% say I suspected that. Yeah, I suspect. Yeah. A lot of people suspected that. Yeah, they do. Yeah, I suspected it too. Okay, and then for the episode, debunkers stumble trying to discredit Corbell's jellyfish UFO video. I asked the question, what is the explanation of the jellyfish UFO video? 124 votes now we're up to. 4 people, or 3.2%, say it's a camera artifact. 8 people, or 6.5%, say balloons. I don't agree with any of those two comments. I don't think that's balloons. Could be wrong. I don't think so, though. 9 people, or 7.3%, say secret man-made tech. I don't agree with that one. No. 11 people, or 8.9%, say hoax. No, that's absurd. 21 people, or 16.9%, say other. 29 people, or 23.4%, say it's interdimensional. And 42 people, or 33.9%, say extraterrestrial. I agree with the extraterrestrial. I agree with the majority. Okay, and then for the episode, classified UFO briefing provides exclamation point for a big week on the UFO disclosure front. And I asked this question, are you satisfied with the efforts of some members of Congress to push for UFO disclosure? 99 votes so far. 38 people, or 38.4%, say yes, great job, while 61 people, or 61.6%, say no, it's not enough. You know what? I have to go with the majority on this one too, because I'm upset. I don't want to be. We shouldn't be playing this game still. What are we still playing this dumb game for? Right? I mean, what are we doing? Yeah. I don't get it. I'm tired of the cover up. I'm tired of this ridiculous nonsense that we're going through. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm sick of the day to day here. I don't like the direction that things are going. I think we should just have the Band-Aid ripped off already. That's where I'm at. Then again, I haven't been in a good mood because of this illness, and I'm just, upset. Naturally, physically and mentally. But it is disgusting, isn't it? It is disgusting that it continues, and we have this Sean Kirkpatrick just, people who believe in a conspiracy, they're not critical thinkers, obviously, according to him. Well, guess what? You're not a critical thinker, and guess what? You're a stooge. Sean Kirkpatrick is a stooge. And I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of the whole obfuscation, the lying, the nonsense. I know that there's something here. I've seen it. I want more information about it. I'm sick of this living a lie. The human race needs to face reality already. It's time. It's time. I'm tired of it. I think everybody's tired of it. I don't know. We need the whistleblowers. That's what we need. We need these more whistleblowers to step up and say, you know what? The hell with even Congress right now. Come on, just go public. Step up with your information. Show somebody. Bring it on. Bring it on already. Don't worry about the repercussions. I wouldn't. I don't care. Who cares? What are they going to do? We're going to arrest you because you just told everyone the truth about that there are aliens here and you showed them the evidence to go along with it. So guess what? We're going to put you in jail now? No. People ain't going to allow that to happen. There'll be such a outrage over it that no, they won't dare put somebody in jail for telling the truth about the extraterrestrial presence. They're not going to do it. In fact, I wish I would have the evidence right now. I wish I could drag in a dead alien, a live alien, whatever I could, and show it to the world, and then we could take it from there. I don't care what the repercussions are. I wouldn't care. People are going to be very upset if anything were to happen to any of the whistleblowers for telling the world the truth about this. So just let's get on with it. Just get on with it. Don't worry about it. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be standing beside you, and they're going to demand that nothing happens for telling the truth about the most greatest discovery of all time. They've been sitting on it for too long. They want to make it 100 years, it looks like, or longer. I mean, how long are they going to drag this out? Yeah. The people who don't believe in this conspiracy, actually, to be quite honest with you, I am not a big conspiracy theory guy myself. When it comes to everything else, I don't believe in it. I just don't. I just know that there's one here. I've done the research, and I know that there's something going on here. A lot of conspiracies out there are just total nonsense. They're just made up by people, just from whole cloth a lot of times. This is not. There's the UFO phenomenon, the conspiracy behind it, has not been made up. There's been thousands and thousands of different people over the decades talking about their own experiences, talking about their own sightings, talking about their own involvement in the government in retrieving craft. All these people aren't making it up. And from my position, I know that because, again, I've had my own experiences, so I know for a fact the government's lying, and they've been lying, and they're going to continue to lie. They're going to lie as long as they can, and they're going to try to get away with this as long as they can. The group, the secret control group, whom, by the way, who appointed Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was a secret control group appointee to the directorship of AARO. That's who put him there, right? I'm just sick of it. Sick of the whole thing. Sick of just listening to these lies. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of hearing people. There's no evidence. I'm so sick of hearing Susan goes repetitious, the same old, like a broken record, coming out with the same old statement all the time, which is a lie, that they don't have any evidence. It's a lie. We know it. We know that it's a lie. We know it for a fact. How many different people have stepped forward over the decades that were in the military that were told to keep their mouths shut about something, some sighting, whatever. There's so many different cases. You can't even get into them all. You know, someday somebody should put together. You have the time and to put together a whole giant. I would say, a 2-hour long episode of something where you just have one witness after another, just back to back that you never seen in one documentary before, but have them put it all together in one documentary. People telling you this is what he said on his deathbed. My dad told me this when he was dying. This just keep going through it. Oh, here's Walter Haut's statement. When you put it all together, you realize that there's something going on here, and that the government is most certainly lying. That's what would happen. It's almost like the same sort of phenomenon that you see when you from like YouTube channels like UFO or Eyes on Cinema. They keep pumping out these little snippets from little documentaries, people talking about their experience, whatever, and they just you put it all together. And if you keep watching this stuff back to back, you realize this is undeniable. We are being visited. There's something here, and obviously the government's been lying to us about it. That's what you learn, and it's just so ridiculous that we keep playing this stupid game. And it seems like what could we do? We have Congress is doing what they could do right now. You know, of course, there's some of these people are politicians, and they're going to use this to help themselves get reelected. Whatever, that's fine. But the bottom line is, at least we have them doing something. We need to have more of these whistleblowers stepping up, because we're just spinning our wheels like this. You know, like the guy who's talking to Corbell, who told Corbell this. Who is this guy? Why doesn't he just come out already and just talk about it? Just go public with it already. Put your face out there. Put your name out there. Tell us what you know. You should be angry about this. People, any whistleblower that steps up to the plate, there's no being Mr. Nice Guy with this. You come out and say, this is what they're doing. I saw with my own eyes. I couldn't get any evidence. I did get this piece of paper. Whatever you can do, let's do it already. What's going on here? Let's get this over with. I'm so sick of these liars in the Pentagon. I'm so sick of people like Sean Kirkpatrick. I'm so sick of these debunkers. They need to go away already. And the only way to get them to go away is for the absolute end-all evidence to be put out there. We need somebody to do that already. What are we doing? Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.